Frankenstein New World, The Sea of Forever, issue number 1 from Dark Horse Comics. This is from the world of Hellboy, so it's Mike Mignola's version of Frankenstein. I've read all the previous Frankenstein stuff, so unlike the other Mike Mignola series, I am familiar with this character. It has been a while though, so I might have some of my information wrong. Basically, Frankenstein feels like he's been abandoned by humanity, and he starts traveling the world. I don't remember if it was Antarctica or the Arctic, but he goes to like one of those places, and he discovers a cave which leads him to the center of the world, where there's like a whole other civilization down there. It's kind of like that book series, Journey to the Center of the Earth. And while there, he meets this little girl named Lilja. She ends up getting killed, and he injects some of his vitality into her to bring her back to life. And she ends up getting a vision, and this series is basically Frankenstein and Lilja leaving their home, journeying back to the surface of the earth, and trying to find the person in Lilja's vision. And at this point in time, all of humanity is basically gone. The earth has completely changed. Like, we see them walking across the beach. Lilja has no idea. Like, she knows about large bodies of waters, but she has never seen a body of water this large. And she decides to name it the Forever Sea after Frankenstein tells her that it's called a sea, and there's many of them. He doesn't know how much though, because the earth has changed. I forgot what exactly caused it. Like I said, it's been a while since I've read the Frankenstein series, and I've read a bunch of other stuff in the meantime. Humanity is basically like destroyed. Now we have like weird mutants kind of living on the surface. Well, I guess they're not really mutants, but we have like new species of creatures. So this is basically like a really post-apocalyptic story. So they meet these kind of like look like frog creatures somewhat. I'm just going to call them lizard people. And at first they're not able to understand each other, but eventually they're able to, I think Lilja uses her powers maybe to allow them to be able to understand what they're talking about. Frankenstein just says, hey, like, I love your boats, beautiful boats. Is there anyone that you know that would trade or make one for us? Because we want to journey across the sea. And we're willing to pay for it, we're willing to trade for it, we're willing to work for it. And the lizard people are like, we can't do that because of the way that their culture is. There's these creatures called the Corinda, and basically they take the Corinda out into the sea, where the Corinda mate with each other, and then when they mate, the male dies, and the female is completely vulnerable to outside predators, specifically the goblin fish. And so these lizard people basically have to fight off the goblin fish to protect the Corindas until the Corinda can escape into her cave, where she can give birth to her young. And while she's doing that, the lizard people take the dead bodies of the males and they take them back to the shore, where they pretty much use everything. Like, they use the skin to make stuff, they eat the flesh, they use the bones to make stuff. So they're kind of like using all the resources. And so because of that, like, I guess the water is sacred to them or something. It's kind of hard to really figure out why they can't sell a boat. I guess maybe it's because the boat is just used for those ceremonies, and that's it. But they basically say, well, we can't sell or trade a boat for you or make one ourselves. We can teach you how to make your own. So they do. Eventually we have Frankenstein and Lilja traveling out into sea, and he's teaching her about like a compass and what it is. It reminds me very much of just like post-apocalyptic stories out there. I guess Last of Us, actually, where you have one character that's been alive during the quote-unquote old world, and then you have a new character who has like no understanding about what this means, what's this. And so you have the older character explaining, this is a compass. Back in our days, we used to use this for yada, yada, yada. So that relationship is nice and interesting. They seem very friendly with each other. Their relationship seems nice. Like, I like their friendship. Meanwhile, I guess we have what the main antagonist is going to be. His name, or its name, is Merc. And Merc seems to almost kind of be like a vampiric creature, where all it wants to do is consume and destroy things. And everywhere it goes, it just leads to like destruction, which kind of reminds me of like old school vampire lore from mythology and stuff, where vampires, wherever they roam, they basically brought like disease and plague and like destroyed crops, killed animals. Basically, it wasn't just them feeding on people that led to problems, but just them being around led to things dying off and stuff. So they kind of remind me of that. Also, the fact that they apparently hate sunlight. Like, he's out in the sun, but it seems to maybe make him weak. He prefers the dark. We see him like chilling out in a dark cave, and he's gonna wait until sunset to come out. And we even get like a little bit of how some of these creatures came to be. So we have a point where Frankenstein and Lilja get attacked by what looks like pterodactyls. And at one point, it bites Frankenstein, and he gets like a flash, and he sees the destruction of the world. He sees like giant kaiju causing destruction, buildings falling down, cities on fire. And the vampires are basically like, we have to find a way to survive. So they like dig into the ground, and they're just gonna like rest underground until like, I guess, all the chaos and destruction above ground is gone. But they end up staying underground for a very long time. Eventually, like, new plants and fungi and stuff regrow on the surface, and the roots drip towards the vampire corpses that are in the dirt, and it basically like goes into the vampires. And I guess the vampires almost seem to like inject their essence into these roots, which go into the plant, and then they're reborn as these creatures. And I'm just like, all right, that's cool. Like, I like that idea for how these new creatures came about. It was basically vampires digging into the dirt to hide from all the fires and chaos, and then they ended up like infecting these like plants and giving birth to like these new weird creatures. And I assume these creatures are going to be hunting down Frankenstein and Lilja, because they seem to sense something. They sense like some presence out there. I don't know if they're sensing Frankenstein or if they're sensing Lilja, but it looks like our two heroes are going to be having to deal with them. So yeah, there's a little bit more. I'm not going to spoil everything, but Frankenstein New World to See It Forever, issue number 1. You know what? This is actually pretty interesting. I enjoy this. I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. I'll say this, when it comes to Frankenstein, I liked some of the stories within the Frankenstein verse. Some of the other ones, I was just like, I was just kind of almost skimming through them, because it's like, I'm this far already. I kind of just want to see how it ends, but it's not as great as other stories. This one seems to be off to an interesting start. I like the dynamic between Frankenstein and Lilja, where he's basically like a mentor, and he's kind of teaching her stuff that he has picked up from the old world. I like the fact that he has a companion to go along on this journey, because the whole story about Frankenstein was the fact that he was basically abandoned by everybody. Like, his creator abandoned him. Humanity wanted nothing to do with him. He obviously couldn't really take up with the monsters. Basically, he was alone. But now he has a companion. Now he has a friend. So that's nice to see. Lilja, I don't remember too much of her character. She seems fine in this. Like, she just seems like a curious kid who wants to know more about the world above ground. The artwork is not Mignola's artwork. He's not the one doing the art, but it is mimicking his style a little bit. I will say that I actually don't mind this artwork. It has an interesting style that I kind of enjoy. And the story itself, it's very bare bones at this point. It's mostly like world building, which I'm okay with. Just as long as if like we actually get stories picking up with the next issue and things. If it's just nothing but world building, that can get kind of boring. But I can understand, hey, we're having Frankenstein journey to the top side after everything has been wiped out. So this is a completely new Earth. So we got to kind of set some of the lore about how this new Earth is. That's completely fine. I'm okay with that. But it's just, obviously, this is going to be a miniseries, because most of the World of Hellboy stories tend to be miniseries. So because of that, hopefully the story will actually like pick up when we get something. But I'm okay with it just being what it is at this point in time. So yeah, all in all, I like this. I thought this was pretty interesting. And it's funny because like I said, I haven't really been the biggest fan of Frankenstein. Like, I like some of the Frankenstein stuff from the Hellboy universe, or Mike Mignola's universe, whatever you want to call it. Other stuff I didn't really care for. Like, there are other characters that I like more than Frankenstein. I think Joe Golem was more interesting. Lobster Johnson was cool. My favorites, oh man, I think that would actually be a toss-up between Baltimore and Sir Edward Grey. I actually went and I've read all of Baltimore. I thought it was really cool, except for like the ending parts. Like, once I liked it more when it was just Baltimore journeying from like country to country and getting in these weird adventures. I prefer that more than the whole like world ending stuff that we got later on. Sir Edward Grey was also really cool. Like, I just finished reading all of his stuff. That is fantastic. I've currently been getting into Hellboy and trying to catch up on that. I just finished the first trade paperback and I'm about to start the second. So I like this whole universe. I like this world. I like Mike Mignola's style of like his weirdness and sometimes the dark comedy and things like that that gets mixed in. So I'm very interested to see how this story ends up going. I would say that it's very interesting right now. Like, I enjoyed it. I'm optimistic for it, and I'm just hoping that we get to see like more actual story later on, rather than just a bunch of world building. But this was fun. So there you go. There's Frankenstein New World, The Sea of Forever, issue number 1 from Dark Horse Comics. I hope you enjoyed, and hope to see you next time. Take care. Later. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, I still want to thank you for watching it this far, and I hope the next one is more to your liking. With that said, thank you once again, and I hope you guys and gals have a good one. Later.